Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at Reflect app. Let's say right up front, this is a sponsored review, so they did pay me to be able to do this review. They have not seen this. They see it the same time as you, so there may be follow-up videos if I've made a mistake to get corrections. We'll find out. Ultimately, if you want to support the channel, keep these videos coming. Best way to do it is to become a member. curtismchale.ca/membership. Take a course, curtismchale.ca/education. But members get all my courses included. So maybe do it that way. That's probably better. But if you're on SkillShare, there's also links to the courses on SkillShare below. For now, let's dive into a good, long, hard look at Reflect app. So the first thing you're probably going to want to do when you have Reflect is to import your notes. And I'm going to hit Command, comma on macOS here, and you can see that I have, usually starts off with profile. If I go down to my graphs and I go to Reflect here, to the import, I can choose the import. You can see how you can import from Evernote, HTML, logsec, Markdown, Mem, OPML, or Workflow-y, and Roam Research. OPML is interesting. That's actually a format for even sharing RSS feeds. So I wonder what that would do with RSS feeds. I did not check, so we're not going to do that now. We're going to do Markdown files. So I've already done this with a bunch of my notes. I'm going to select import files, and this is just my inbox. So let's do that. Select all. It's only 36 items, not a big deal. We'll open them. It's importing, right? 0 duplicates. I'm ready to import 36 files, and we'll start. Takes a little bit, so I found with, I think I imported up to about 1,000 notes in one shot, and it was fine, like it took a couple minutes. It wasn't a big deal. We close, and then we come back, and they should show up in my all notes here. I did find it took a couple minutes again for it to show up here in my all notes, but it does work, totally works, and that's fine. Now the big issue is, I don't know if you noticed this, when you imported the files, you can only import a single folder. So my current Obsidian database has over 1 million words and 4,500 notes split across about 5 folders. 6 folders, really. There's some legacy stuff that I still need to organize, although I've been saying that for a long time. So for me to pull those in, I actually have to pull in multiple different folders multiple different times. Now, my big concern at the beginning was that Reflect wouldn't create links between folders, right, from between notes that were in separate folders because they were in separate imports. It actually does do that. It seems to do that just fine, so I'm not concerned there. Ultimately, I'd love to see a recursive import so I could just say, here's my Obsidian Vault, pull everything in, and it would pull everything in. It doesn't, so you'll have to take some more steps. But if you really like Reflect, I don't think that that is a huge hurdle that you'll have to just jump. I think it's a one-time thing. You'll be done with it. Then you can just use Reflect. Fine. So one thing it doesn't do very good with is handling your YAML front matter. So you can see this right here. This actually should be called Raycast. It shouldn't have tags app to review as the note title, but that is the title because that is what it says, because that was the first line in the note that it could parse, right, instead of the 3 dashes. So if I typed Raycast, that is the actual title of the note, or that should be the title of the note instead of Raycast. So you're going to have to go back through if you have a bunch of YAML in there in your front matter of notes and actually adjust the titles. I'd love to have it use the title of the actual note. So in our Markdown files with Obsidian, this file would actually be called raycast.md. I wish it would take the file name, or at least give you the option to use the file name, so instead of trying to parse the first line in your import as text. So that's going to be another hurdle. It's a one-time hurdle, but it is a lot of, say, tedious fixing of notes. When, again, a single setting could fix this for you. Let's hope they do that. And one final issue with import is if you have images embedded in your files, it doesn't actually bring the images in as well. It's just going to ignore them, going to leave them where they are. So you lose them. Now you can actually import images into Reflect on its own, but you'll have to go back and redo that with all your images. So on the import front, it's going to be a lot of work if you're coming from a large Obsidian database with a bunch of different stuff, right? It's also going to not recognize Kanban boards, anything like that, because it doesn't have any idea about Obsidian plugins. But there are going to be some hurdles for you to dive into if you're coming from Markdown files. Make sure you're aware of them before you import, because it is a lot of work to convert all that stuff. Now let's talk about entering text in Reflect. So entering text in Reflect is reasonably easy, actually. It's got some good semi-markdown support. So if I go in here and I type 1, right, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, right, it does 4, heading 4, and 5, heading 5. That's great. This is a good point for it. It has lots of markdown support, and I like that. But the big problem is here, if I want to change this to a different heading, so when I change this to a different heading, what I have to do is I have to highlight the heading. It's going to have this show up, and I can only change this between a heading 2 and a heading 3. I can't use any of the other heading 4 or heading 5. So it's a pain in the butt. If you're going to, re-architect some of your document, you have very few choices. The only way to change this into a heading 4 now is to actually go and delete it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I did 3, right? So it's going to be heading 3 again. I can't add another one, right? To get heading 4, that's now a heading 1. I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, heading 4. So now it is a heading 4, like I said. I love Obsidian does this when you highlight this text, that it actually shows you what the markdown is at the beginning for you to edit it. It does not allow this. Now, another way it lets you enter your content is with slash commands. This is very common now. You see this in Notion, you see this in Obsidian. So if I do slash, then I can see a whole bunch of options, right? Heading 1, 2, 3, I can make to-do lists, ordered lists, quotes, turn a backlink in here. So let's backlink to Raycast. Perfect. Now that would now take me to the note, right, that we edited earlier. You can see it shows up in a popover. That's nice. Now, one thing it doesn't let me do is if I want to do image, I can't do that, right? Or file. So it doesn't give me access to the file picker in macOS, or probably more problematic in iPadOS or on your phone. There are test flight apps for both your phone and for iOS, or for your phone and your iPad. But you can't access the file pickers. You can't access the files menu. And at this point, by hitting slash. So I'd love to get in here, see slash, and so file or image, right? Upload, nothing. So I have to actually drag and drop from the Finder on macOS to in here to make it work. Now, organizing notes and Reflect is another area you're going to look at. So if I'm going to organize notes and Reflect, I really only have tags. Now, they have this in their Academy, and Academy is great, actually. There'll be a link to that in the description. They have a discussion point about why folders are friction, because then you have to decide what folder it goes in. Does it go in this folder or that folder? And I agree that there are a lot of people that spend so much time worrying about their exact organization instead of doing stuff. But folders don't have to be friction. I use about 4 folders. I have writing, and then I have a subfolder for published. I have a boards one for Kanban boards. I have a notes one for my notes on reading. I have a tags one for tag notes, link up above to what tag notes are. And I have my inbox. That's really it. Those are the main ones I operate in. I have some legacy stuff. I have some stuff I need to clean up, but those are the ones I operate in. So if I'm taking a note on something myself, right, about a book or something like that, then I put it in the notes folder. If it is say a tag note. So you can see right in front of me, I have Kubernetes. That would be a tag note. So anytime I talk about Kubernetes and any other notes on programming, I would actually put that off in my tags folder because it is a tag note. And the inbox is for stuff that needs to get sorted. That's it. It's not, my writing goes in writing for my own writing when I'm collecting notes and creating my own thoughts. When it's published, it goes to published. I don't think folders are as big a problem as Reflect thinks they are. And I think that tags only does limit what you can actually do with your organization. Now, I'm not saying tags is a bad approach. It's just not the approach I prefer. So if you also like folders to have some basic organization, so in Obsidian, I can even actually say only search in my writing folder for this, this text. You can't do that here because there's no advanced search, which we'll talk more about in a minute. Let's talk about browser extension. Let's go to my site to show this off, because why not? It's my site. And we're going to go to, let's talk about it. Watch the movie Ghosted. I liked it. So what we can do here is if I highlight Ghosted like this, and I click my Reflect button here, it's going to keep it as a note, right? Ghosted, I'm here for the comedy. Curtis McHale, great. Add to Reflect. So now it's saved. I like that you can come in. If I go to Reflect now, see Ghosted, I'm here for the comedy. It gives me the URL, it gives me a link, it shows me my highlights. Now, it'll actually show up as text. Even if I go to this in iPadOS, it doesn't actually show up as highlighted on the web page because it can't interact with Safari in that way. But I can highlight text, further text in there, and then edit or hit Reflect again, and it will actually paste it to the same note, append it to the same note. So that's good. The browser extensions let you capture this text easily. Now, browser extensions are currently available for Chrome and for Safari. I wish we had them in Firefox as well. I prefer Firefox, actually, at least on my Linux machine. Behind me, that's my preferred option to use as a browser. Chrome is really bloated and Safari's not there. So Firefox is excellent and fast, but it's currently not there. I've seen some workarounds for it, but I didn't go into hacking around with extensions to make this work. For now, you can get it on Chrome and on Safari, which is honestly probably going to cover pretty much everyone. And it works in Safari on iOS as well. Reflect also has templates. If you hit Command comma on Mac OS, you can come in here and you can see your templates, right? It comes with the company, the journal, and the person template. All good things. So this is, if you tag someone as a person or use your person template, it tags it properly for you and can help you just have information to fill in. To add a template, I'll delete this one just to show it off. Hit add template, call it test template, and then this is a test. That's it. It's added now. I come back to a note, I can probably just come in here and hit slash and type template, and it shows you my templates. Test template. This is a test. So it just entered the text for me, right? If I wanted to do a person, or I could have a movie if I wanted, right? So let's say person. That's great, right? But this could also be my movie, my general movie information at the beginning of a document, if I wanted that. Templates are easy, accessible from the slash command, and I think they're very useful. I think that you should use them as often as possible if you're continually adding the same content for any type of note, even the top of a note that you're going to take on a book, then by all means you should be using templates to make that process faster. So now books. Reflect does in its setup process want to connect with your Kindle account, and it will import your books for you. Right now we're looking at So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. This is excellent. Now, one of our issues here is that compared to if we were to look at this note in Obsidian, where it actually would link, say, Apple Computer was decidedly not born out of passion, right here at the end it would say a link, and it would actually take me to the location of this in the Kindle app. So when it says location in Kindle, it actually means the location in the digital file. So that means I can go to it in Mac, I can go to it on iPadOS, I can go to that location anywhere and see this highlight. So now the other issue is here, we have our highlights up top. You can see that. If I scroll down, I have my notes. And that means that my highlights and my notes are separate. So I don't have a lot of notes in this book, but in other books where I have lots of notes as well, often the note I wrote down goes together with some highlight up here. And it's actually split them apart, so I can't actually see it. I don't love that. I probably have deep work as possibly a better option. So let's look up deep work definition, deep work hypothesis. Here's the book right here, highlights. Right, I got tons of highlights and tons of notes, but purpose one, what does, that should be purpose, clearly I spelled that wrong. Purpose one, what does that have to do with? Well, it's gonna have to do with one of the beginning notes up here, but it doesn't relate them. I like much better, say in Obsidian, in the readwise interaction, it would say, right, it would have it indented and my note would be here, purpose one. I don't know if that's actually right, but that's what it would do. It would actually give me a better insight into it. So having the highlights and the notes split up makes it hard to actually look through what note you had goes together with which passage. And again, your notes down here don't have a location, so I can't go click on location and look at it. Let's actually even bring it over in, let's open it up over here. Deep work. So you can see it here. This is the same thing, right? Deep work, location 32. Note, here's the definition of the term the book will function on, right? We can probably find our purpose if we look purpose one. Purpose. So you can see here that it actually shows me like convinced that the deep work hypothesis is true. That's the purpose. Do convince us that his hypothesis on deep work is true. And I can see location is 169. So I can go find it there if I want to go look at it in the Kindle app by clicking on this link from any device that has access to Obsidian. It'll take me to the Kindle app on it. I'd love to see this way more. This is far more useful in actually interacting with your books. Let's talk about meeting notes, right? So let's look here. Now what I have so far, you can see I have a meeting tomorrow. It says nope at 9. So I haven't actually hooked it up with the other calendar. The way my scheduling works, I need to have things on two calendars, my work calendar and then actually my personal calendar, so my wife can see these things as well. So nope is just a placeholder for my 9:30 meeting, actually. I usually extend it half an hour before and after. So I can take a meeting note, though. I can hit plus, add meeting to my daily note. Nope, this is actually my PC intro meeting. I'm not going to add attendees in here. Let me add myself, actually. That's email, right? So let's do curtis.mckale@gmail.com. Name McHale Curtis. Good. Curtis McHale. Add to my daily note. Great. For a PC intro. So I can see Curtis McHale, right? It's actually linked to me here. Shows me my emails, right? I can add my second email in there, curtis.mchale@gmail.com. And you can see I've got them in there, right? Curtis, it shows me on I'm on Mastodon, it shows my Twitter stuff, LinkedIn, GitHub, that's great. And then other stuff here, right? So this is good. This is another thing it will do. It'll actually start to populate your information when it knows who the person is. Well, let's go back to the daily notes. So meeting notes are great that I can pull this in. Now, what it doesn't have, unfortunately, is that it does not have my integration with the Apple Calendar at this point. So I can't have all of my Apple Calendar notes in there or my iCloud calendar, if that's what you use. We actually use that heavily here because we're predominantly an Apple house, except for my Linux machine. So not having integration with, say, our family, like I can't see my family calendar here. I can't tell that, I have a piano lesson later today maybe, or something like that. I can't see any of those things because it's not integrated with Apple Calendar. I'd love to see Apple iCloud integration in here, since this is an Apple specific app at the moment, right? This is available only on Apple apps, only on Apple platforms, iOS, macOS. Why aren't we integrated with the Apple iCloud apps or iCloud services as well? We should be, because that's honestly, a lot of people are just going to be using those if they're on Apple devices already. Another thing we can do is share and Reflect notes. So let's come in here. So I'm going to share with a private link. Copy it. If I open up Safari now, you see I can get in here and do it. I can actually see this note, which is great. Now, originally, so I pointed out a bug to them at the beginning. There is a special tag you can put in HTML pages that say robots don't index this. So search engines, you shouldn't find this. This is a minor security issue. You should probably do something about it. And they said, you're right, I probably should. So something else they've also done recently, I've noticed, is that they've added this long string of numbers after, which is excellent. This is going to increase your security because it's going to be really hard to find this long string of numbers. Previously, I had a note, and we can actually probably show it out because last time I checked. So this note was shared. You can check it out if you want. It's about a WordPress function. It's not really a big deal. But the URL was fairly easy to guess, actually, right? Curtis McHale, sanitize URL / sanitize URL. So this is a WordPress function. This is not like an important note that I'm worried about, but the security on this was fairly low because it was very easy to guess that. Now that we're getting this big long string of random numbers after, I'm happier with what we see for security-wise, but I would still say that it is theoretically guessable. If you are putting your note up there, then assume that other people can see it, that you don't want to see it, so make sure you're only sharing information you really want anyone to see if they can find it. What I'd love to see is a password, even a password per note, or a password that you can put overall on stuff, so only people with the password can see your shared notes. That would be far, far better. Or only people with a guest account on Reflect could see your shared notes. That would be even better. We currently don't have that, unfortunately, though. So be careful if you're going to share your notes, but you can. So let's talk about AI. AI is a big thing that many apps have now. I'm honestly only okay on it. I'm not convinced that it's always the best thing. I don't find it that useful, to be honest. But let's look at what we can do. So one thing I can do is I can type /AI palette, bring it up, and I can say title, so just suggest a few title options. And if I hit enter, it's going to ask me for my text. And so I'm just actually doing the text from the AI chunk of the article for this. Hit submit would be command enter. I'll hit submit, suggest a few title options. Reflect integrates AI features. So it's going to show me these for the text I just entered. Excellent. Now, if I grab the entire article over here, which is 3,547 words or 20,000 characters, and I hit AI palette, title suggestions, and hit paste, right? So we're way over. So this is going to be a limitation in the AI for you. If you have a long article, right, this is 20,000 characters, which is what it goes by, then you're going to go over your quota. Now, you can get around this by having your own OpenAI key, which you can put in, and it'll move over to your key, and then you can just use what you want or what you pay for. But right now you're going to have a limitation. So I can't actually use it to generate a title for this article because there's just too many characters. And I get that, right? They are paying for this service. They are paying for usage of this. So they want to make sure that you are not using way too much and costing them a ton of money. So I'm going to get that. Now, other things you could do, right? If I come in here and I put in clipboard, and there you go. And now I could say AI palette, write the next paragraph. Oh, I'm going to have to paste that in submit. So it's writing the next paragraph as well. It's worth noting that reflects AI integration. So it's taking what it has already and adding to it. This is other stuff you could do. I could also say escape, right? There was other stuff. I don't want to insert that. I just want to escape. AI copy editor. So I'm going to paste in act as a copy editor, and we can already see the spelling mistake in there. So now it's giving me more content in here, or it's rewriting this for me. Now I'd have to go read through this to see how useful it is. Sometimes it's been great, sometimes it's been not great. It really depends on if it's fitting your tone well or not. If you like AI, if you're really jazzed on AI, then by all means, Reflect has it, and it has some useful features in there. I've actually liked on some of my shorter articles lately, I've been hopping back into Reflect for it to give me title suggestions for my YouTube videos. Haven't always used them, but they've given me like, oh, I should try that. And I've tried different formulations of them. So I think AI can be helpful in that respect. Or as, finding some actual research, sometimes you always have to check it because it can just be totally way off base and have research that is not actually valid. Even if you say cite your sources, it has no idea. So you need to check, but it can be useful for some stuff, say editing, title suggestions. I found it useful for those things. Now, I've said a few times that Reflect is available on iPadOS and iOS. It's currently in test flight. I had some issues signing in at the beginning. I actually don't love, and we'll talk more about what I don't love. I don't love that Reflect wants to send you a sign-in link all the time. Can't tell you how much of a pain in the butt it is. It wants to send it to my work email for this, and that's great, but I don't actually have my work email on my phone, so then I'm going to go grab another device when I set that up and find the link again. Honestly, just dumb. Let me set up a username and account. Now, it does actually let you set up an encryption key after, so you do have like kind of a password, but then I have to sign in with this stupid link they send me. I hate that on every app, not just Reflect. Lots of apps do this. And then I have to open up 1Password and get the encryption key. We'll talk more about security and the encryption key in a minute. Now on iPadOS, you can do lots of different stuff. You can drag and drop your files in there. You can work with your notes pretty much every way you can work with your notes on the macOS app. I didn't really find any limitations at all, but I spent most of my time on the macOS app or on the web browser because I'm on Linux, so I tested it out there. Again, works really nicely in a web browser. No complaints there at all. I do like native apps more, but it's fine in Linux as well on a web browser or in Windows on a web browser. Overall, I'm going to give the iOS apps thumbs up. They're good apps. They're great. They're in test flight. So there's, a few issues here and there, but nothing that I would say is a deal breaker. They're certainly absolutely usable right now. Many applications get shipped in a worse state than Reflect has their current test iPadOS, iOS apps set up in. One thing many people are going to ask is, are your Reflect notes secure? And the truth is they are. So they have a whole documentation of what they use, XChaCha20, Poly 1305. It's good. Honestly, it's good. If you don't know encryption, it's a good one. Right? It tells you how they do it. It tells you everything else, everything about it. And then probably even more crucial is that our security and encryption has been independently and successfully audited by Doyen Sec Security. That's excellent. And then they publish the report for you. That alone is a huge, I can't tell you, I don't care if Doyen found a ton of issues and then Reflect fixed them. That's great. You want someone to find issues because there is always issues. As a programmer, I know this. I make mistakes all the time. The thing is, they got someone to audit it and then to look at it. So this looks like Q2 2021 according to the PDF file name. That's awesome. Now we're in 2023. I would love to see yearly audits of their security if they're really going to go down this route, but they have done far more than many other people have in far as ensuring your security. So I would say, yes, they're absolutely secure. The biggest issue is your shared notes publicly. I would check or make sure that any shared note that's publicly shared is something you don't care if anyone has, because that can be an issue. And they even suggest on their security page, which I was showing you right here, right? We highly recommend generating and storing your encryption key in 1Password. That's right, or in a password manager. Really, they recommend 1Password, but there's lots of other options out there that are solid. So then they also do say, right, but this is JavaScript. Is it really secure? And they say, you're right. Ultimately, you got to trust this, which is true. Ultimately, you got to trust the programmer. You got to trust the people that make your computer. You did not solder every chip together and build it all from scratch. You got to trust whatever your hardware is, whatever your software is. So you do have to trust them. But I would say, given the security white paper, the fact they've been audited, I would put them very high in my trust category, even as a fairly new company, as a fairly new to me company. The biggest thing I'd love to see is continued audits of their security so that we know that it is continuing to be secure, that new issues are not integrated. All right, now let's talk about some issues with Reflect. I've already talked about the first one. Huge pain in the butt. Those stupid login links. I have no idea why every company loves to do this now. Put in your email. We'll send you a link. I literally sat waiting at one point for 10 minutes. This is not Reflect's fault. This is email's fault. 10 minutes for an email to come in. And it comes in, great. And now I can log in. But if I had a username and password, I could just log in. Like you're talking about on the security page, using 1Password. So they're kind of assuming you should be doing this. They're at least recommending you should. Why don't I have a username and account? Now, other places do this like Notion, but at least in Notion, you can set up an account afterwards. I can say, now, okay, I did my login link thing. Great. Now, here's the account I want to use. I just want to use a password all the time. Okay, another thing I dislike about this is, in theory, you can open a note in a sidebar. So, actually pause the recording so I could do this. I'm right-clicking right now. I got nothing. I come in here and I want to say, open up this, say this meeting maybe, this note. And I right-click and I got nothing again. I hit slash, right? I say, what, open, no open, right, nothing. Like, in theory, you can actually open a note over here. And how I know it's in theory that you can do it, because right here, you can see it in my prep for this. I did it, right? Main note, note over here. It worked at one point. I don't know now, though. So I was going to say, why can you only open 2 notes? This is a problem. I want to open more notes in that. Sometimes when I'm using Obsidian, I have notes in a grid. I have multiple tabs with grids. I got lots of stuff open. Now I can only open 2 notes in theory, if you can figure it out. If I can figure it out, right? Right cast, right click, no idea. So I can hover over it and see what the content of the note is, but that doesn't help me. Say I want to type up here something about Raycast, and then I come down and okay, great. I can keep typing, but oh, I lost the preview of the note, so that's not helpful to me either. So if you need multiple notes open, Reflect isn't going to be the one for you. And I can't even figure out how to open up multiple notes now, right? I have pinned notes over here. That doesn't do it. I can unpin the note. I can pin it again, which is Command O. I don't love that either, because Command O is open everywhere. I'm not sure why that's pinned, but it's Command O on Reflect to pin your note. So I have no idea how to do this. In theory, you can open up 2 side by side. I don't see it in their docs. Can't find it in other people's reviews. I can't figure out how to do it, though. I'd love to see better note options where you could open up multiple windows as well. Why can't we see that? Probably my final issue with Reflect is that it is only available on Apple apps. So it's only available on your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac OS. That's it. So if I want to use it on Linux or Windows, then I have to actually go over and use the browser for it. Again, some people don't care about this. I actually like a native app. I like to be able to, Command Tab. If I come back to here, I can come back in there and I can see my apps that are open and I can choose the ones I want. So if it's set up in the browser, I can't do that. All I can do is go back to, say, Chrome and use it. That's it. But Chrome is just everything in Chrome. It's not, right? It could be GitHub. It could be a bunch of other things. So it's just another tab as opposed to its own window isolated to itself. I'd love to see cross-platform apps eventually. I'm not sure if they're on the roadmap. I didn't find any information on it being on the roadmap, but I'd love to see a cross-platform app. I already take Electron, right? Obsidian's Electron. I'm fine with that. Works fine. Works great. I'd love to see that. Currently, we don't have it, though. So our final question is always, who should use Reflect? I've already said, if you're a mixed platform user, you use, Windows and Mac, probably not going to be for you unless you don't mind web apps. If you're totally cool with web apps, use them all the time, then by all means, Reflect is great. If you focus heavily on your daily notes, Reflect can be great as well. I don't actually focus heavily on my daily notes. I most often use it as my note tool as a writing tool. Right? I read books. I look at, say, my Kindle notes. We already saw some issues with that as well, how they're split up and I can't really see them. I can't make sense of them. So Reflect is not good if you want to do that. I don't think it's actually good for heavy writers. If you're going to do a ton of writing in there, not it, right? I can't organize, say, multiple chapters. There's lots of things that I can't do because there's no plugin system like there is in other tools like Obsidian or in Logseq, right? There's no plugin system for other people to enhance it. You just get what you get and you don't get upset, as I tell my kids in preschool. So who is it for? A lot of meetings, if you do lots of daily notes, if that's your main thing and everything else is kind of accessory, right? You have people, which can be auto-populated. Businesses can be auto-populated with information as well. If that's more where you are in your notes, then by all means, Reflect is an awesome app, and I think you can get a lot out of it, right? If you are heavily more on the writing side, I want to dig in deep writing, deep research, I don't think Reflect is the right one for you. It's a good app, though. It's fast. It's snappy, right? I got a few thousand notes in here over my imports, and I like it. I've had no issues with it on any platform, honestly, even in the browser. I just don't like browser apps. So what would I give Reflect overall? I think it's a good app. It's not going to have me switching, as I'm heavily on the writing side, not on the meeting note side, on the people, notes on people, notes on businesses side. But if that's you, then by all means, Reflect is a really good app, and I think you should check it out. That's it. If you like the video, thumbs up below. YouTube nonsense, you know what that is. Otherwise, you can support the channel by becoming a member. CurtisMcHale.ca/membership. Take a course. CurtisMcHale.ca/education. Members get my courses included. Or Skillshare links below, that type of stuff. Honestly, go have a great day, though. That's it. Ciao.